Most illegal websites are hosted on standard cloud servers, tucked away in anonymous data centers in countries with lax laws. But one group went deeper literally. In the late 1990s, a team of hacktivists, led by a mysterious Dutchman named Herman Johan Zent, took over a decommissioned NATO nuclear bunker in the Netherlands. This was Cyberbunker. The facility was a 5-story underground fortress with a 10-foot thick concrete walls, designed to survive an electromagnetic pulse and direct nuclear hits. Zent didn't just want a server room. He claimed the bunker was part of the Republic of Cyberbunker, a sovereign entity immune to the laws of any nation. They hosted everything the clean web wouldn't touch: the Pirate Bay, WikiLeaks, and massive global spam operations. The most insane part of their history occurred in 2013, when Cyberbunker was linked to the largest cyber attack in history against the anti-spam group Spamhaus. The attack was so massive, it nearly crashed the global internet's routing system, slowing down traffic for millions of people worldwide. When the Dutch police eventually moved in, they didn't just knock on the door. They had to use heavy machinery and tactical teams to breach the armored, blast-proof doors. It remains the closest the real world has ever come to a Bond villain server farm. They didn't just host data, they built a physical manifestation of the lawless web, proving that if you want to hide digital secrets, sometimes you need 5 stories of reinforced concrete to do it. In 1999, Sean Fanning was just another bored college student with a revolutionary idea. By 2000, he was the music industry's public enemy #1. Before Napster, the industry held all the cards. If you wanted one hit song, you had to shell out $18 for a plastic CD filled with filler tracks you didn't want. Napster changed that overnight by introducing peer-to-peer P2P sharing. Crucially, Napster didn't store any music on its own servers. It simply acted as a switchboard connecting your hard drive to a stranger's. While Metallica's Lars Ulrich is the famous face of the anti-Napster movement, the obscure truth is how personal and granular the vendetta became. The band hired private investigators to track down individual fans and physically delivered a printed list of 335,435 usernames to Napster's headquarters, demanding they be banned for life. The scale was unprecedented. At its peak, Napster had 80 million users. The industry's panic was so great that they completely missed the forest for the trees. Napster actually tried to pivot to a legal subscription model long before Spotify existed, but the record labels were so blinded by rage, they refused to license the music. By killing Napster, they didn't stop piracy. They just forced it into unsuable, decentralized networks like Gnutella and BitTorrent, effectively destroying the traditional CD business forever. Kim Dotcom, a 6'7" flamboyant German hacker, turned file sharing into a billion-dollar empire with Megaupload. Unlike the sharing spirit of Napster, Megaupload was a massive business. At one point, his site accounted for a staggering 4% of all global internet traffic. Dotcom didn't hide in a basement. He lived like royalty in a $30 million mansion in New Zealand, surrounded by a fleet of luxury cars with license plates like God, Guilty, and Mafia. He even threw massive parties with Hollywood stars, even though he was technically enabling the theft of their movies. The obscure detail that keeps legal scholars awake at night is the sheer aggression of the 2012 takedown. The DOJ orchestrated a helicopter-led tactical raid on his estate as if they were capturing a high-level terrorist leader. However, the raid was technically flawed. Because Kim was a New Zealand resident and the servers were in multiple jurisdictions, the seizure of his data was later ruled illegal by local courts. This created a decade-long legal stalemate that persists today. Dotcom even recorded a high-production music video featuring endorsements from Kanye West and Will. I Am just weeks before the raid, flaunting his power to the very people suing him. The Megaupload saga proved that the government could and would shut down a massive portion of the internet without a trial, sparking a massive debate about digital safe harbor and the limits of government overreach. The Silk Road was the eBay of the dark web, a marketplace where you could buy anything from high-grade narcotics to fake passports using Bitcoin. Its creator, Ross Ulbricht, operating under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, was a libertarian idealist who believed the state had no right to regulate trade between individuals. He used the Tor network to mask server locations, making the site seemingly invisible to law enforcement. The FBI didn't catch Ulbricht through a high-tech hack or a vulnerability in the Tor code. They caught him through a Gmail login from 2011. A relentless IRS agent found an old post on a Magic Mushroom forum where a user named Altoid asked for coding help and accidentally left a personal email address linked to Ulbricht. The final takedown was pure cinema. Undercover agents followed Ross to the Glen Park Public Library in San Francisco. To prevent him from closing his laptop and triggering a kill switch that would encrypt all the evidence, agents staged a fake lover's quarrel right behind his chair. As he turned around to see what the noise was, an agent snatched his open laptop. This gave the FBI full access to the site's backend and millions of dollars in Bitcoin, ending the first great Darknet empire and proving that human error is the greatest weakness in any digital armor. While most illegal sites deal in entertainment or drugs, SciHub steals science. Founded by Kazakhstani researcher Alexandra Elbakian, it provides free access to over 88 million paywalled academic papers. Elbakian is often called the Robin Hood of science, but the US government views her as a major cyber threat. Because SciHub uses leaked credentials from university professors to bypass the paywalls of multi-billion-dollar publishers like Elsevier, it occupies a strange, divisive moral grey area. The obscure detail here is the suspicion of international espionage. The FBI investigated whether Elbakian was actually working with Russian intelligence to use SciHub as a front for stealing US military secrets by gaining access to university networks. Despite being sued for millions and having her domain name seized repeatedly by courts in the US and Europe, Elbakian remains at large in Russia. The site continues to operate through a hydra of mirror domains that change almost daily. It is the only illegal site on this list that is actively supported by many in the professional and medical community, as researchers argue that publicly funded science should not be locked behind a $40 per article paywall that most of the world cannot afford. If Napster was a skirmish, the Pirate Bay, TPB, was a world war. Founded in Sweden by activists Gottfrid Svartholm and Fredrik Neij, it became the face of the BitTorrent movement. They were famously cocky, maintaining a legal section on their site where they publicly posted and mocked cease and desist letters from Hollywood lawyers. Their replies were often profane and dismissive, claiming they were immune to foreign laws and that the United States of Los Angeles had no jurisdiction over them. The most bizarre chapter of their history was the attempt to buy the Principality of Sealand. Sealand is a tiny man-made platform in the North Sea that claims to be an independent nation. The Pirate Bay tried to crowdfund enough money to buy it so they could host their servers in a place where copyright laws literally didn't exist. When the Swedish police finally raided their data center in 2006 in a massive operation, the site was back online in just 3 days, hosted on a secret backup server. They even had a tracker that they claimed to be launching into orbit on a satellite to avoid ground-based raids. Their resilience turned them into folk heroes of the digital age, proving that a decentralized community is almost impossible to kill. On the deepest, darkest layers of the dark web, sites appeared that claimed to offer crowd-funded assassinations. These sites, like the infamous Beza Mafia, operated on a terrifying logic. Users would pull Bitcoin to put a hit on a public figure or a private enemy. It was the ultimate nightmare scenario for the internet age, a marketplace for death that operated entirely outside the reach of the law. However, the obscure truth discovered by investigators is that almost all of these sites were elaborate, multi-layered scams. Beza Mafia was actually run by a man who had no intention of hurting anyone, he just wanted to steal Bitcoin. He used fake gore photos from low-budget movie sets to convince users that the hits were being carried out. When his site was eventually hacked by a white-hat security researcher, his private communications revealed he was actually mocking the clients who sent him money, calling them idiots. While the hits weren't real, the sites were used by law enforcement as honeypots to catch people who actually tried to hire killers, leading to dozens of real-world arrests for attempted murder. It serves as a grim reminder that, on the dark web, even the villains are being preyed upon. Finally, we have Library Genesis, or LibGen. It is a massive shadow library of over 33 million files, including textbooks, comics, and magazines. Like Sci-Hub, its goal is the total democratization of knowledge. It is often called the grave or vault of the internet because it hosts almost every book ever digitized, including rare manuscripts that have been wiped from other platforms. The obscure detail that makes LibGen terrifying to publishers and fascinating to data hoarders is its distributed nature. Unlike Megaupload, which was a central target that could be unplugged, LibGen's database is small enough, about 40 terabytes, that thousands of individuals around the world have downloaded the entire library onto personal hard drives. This community is known as data hoarders. If the main site is taken down, a new one can be launched in minutes from a basement in Brazil or a dorm room in Japan. It is the ultimate doomsday vault for human knowledge. The history of these sites teaches us one final lesson. Once information is digitized and shared, it becomes a permanent part of the human record. You can arrest the founders, but you can never delete the data.